All right, so we've been busy with a series called Building Healthier Families. And in the first part to the series, we spoke about the importance of saying sorry. And let me tell you, I had to apply that this past week where I said to Liesl, I am sorry. She said, don't you talk nonsense to me here, You know, don't come joking with me. This is serious. I said, I'm serious. I am sorry. Well, don't say it in that tone then. But I had to apply it this very past week. And it's amazing how sometimes a simple thing like a sincere sorry, maybe with the right tone, can make all the difference in our relationships, isn't it? And it can solve something. It can even save something. It can save a relationship that would otherwise maybe have faded away or even ended. And so, just saying sorry is so powerful. And then last week, in the second part to our series, we looked at the importance of prayer. And if you think about it, if we don't pray for our loved ones and for our family, who's going to pray for them? And somehow God works in response to prayer. I don't know why it is, but God has chosen to work in response. When you and I pray, He moves. And I think there are times where God's waiting for us to pray, where God's standing and He's saying, I want to do something here, and I've got something lined up, but I cannot do that until you pray it into being. And so you and I need to be faithful there in praying for our families. So this morning I want to share with you just 3 basic building blocks to building healthier families. Just 3 very easy, very practical building blocks. And we all know the saying, if you get the basics right, the rest will follow. And it's very much like that in our families. If we can get these basics into place, you'll find that the rest will fall into place. And I want to pick up quickly on a line that I mentioned in the first part to the series. And I said, building healthier families is not about creating a perfect family, remember? It's about creating a loving family. And sometimes, especially as younger parents, and when we get married, oh man, we're so idealistic, and we're gonna build this perfect family. And very soon you realize, man, I think I'm failing, and we can go through life as parents and sometimes as spouses just feeling like a failure, because sometimes you're looking at what others are doing and you're comparing yourself. And so please put that thing to bed. It's not about building perfect families. You and I will never be able to do that, but it's about building a loving family. And there's our first building block for this morning, is developing a loving family. Love forms the basis of a happy, healthy family. I had the privilege of growing up in a very godly home. Parents who loved the Lord and served the Lord, but I can tell you it wasn't a perfect home at all, because no families are perfect. But there was love. Lots of love in the home. And you could almost say love covers a multitude of sin. Because when there's love and we know our parents love us, even though they couldn't give us everything, and even though maybe they didn't do everything the way we would have liked it to be done, it's fine. Because we knew that they loved us. And so love in our families need to just be the basis. Now, let me just clarify 2 things. A family and love. What do we mean when we talk about family? And what do we mean when we talk about love? When I refer to family, I'm not necessarily referring to blood relations, all right? It's a group of people who function together as can we say, as a family unit. And so it may be a blended family. It may be adopted children or step-parents or stepchildren. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't have to be blood relations. It's a group that functions together as a family, all right? So that's when I refer to family. It includes that as well. And what about love? I think sometimes we use the word love so easily and flippantly. I love pizza and I love the mountains and so on. And really we enjoy those things, or we appreciate those things. Love, I think, is a very different thing. I think of this little girl that went to sleep over at her friend's place. And so the friend's mother wanted to know if she eats broccoli because they were going to have broccoli that evening for dinner. Oh, yes, ma'am. She said, I love broccoli. And so that evening when the broccoli was passed around, she declined to take any. And so the mother wanted to know, but I thought you said you love broccoli. Oh, yes, ma'am, I do, but not enough to eat it. And so I think if I had to ask you, do you love your family? Oh, yes, sir, I do. But not enough to spend time with them. And so very often we love in the abstract. Think about it. We love in the abstract. But when it comes down to practicing that love or showing that love, man, it's a very different story. And the Apostle John tells us to not only love in word, but to love in deed as well. Listen to what he says. In 1 John chapter 3, he says, dear children, that's you and me, he says, let's not merely say that we love each other, but let us show the truth by our actions. And so if we really love somebody, it'll show by our actions. It'll show in what we do for them and how we interact with them, our tone. Love shows. Love is not just the stuff that we say. You know, it's the guy who says to his wife, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, a couple of times a day, I love you. But he never shows the love. And she's like, really? And then the other guy who never says it, but somehow he just does it. He just gets along with it. And he'll go and pick up something at the supermarket for her because he knows it's going to save her a bit of time. Drop off the children for her just to help her out. He'll even work on a bad habit in his own life because he knows it frustrates her. And so he does that because he loves her. And so love will show, and it's in the small, everyday little things that it shows. It's not in the big gifts. Sometimes we think, oh, it's in the big things. You know, I've got to buy the big gifts. Guys, you don't have to. Sorry, ladies, you don't have to. It's not in the holidays and the trips away and so on. Guys, you don't have to. But it's in those little everyday things that it makes all the difference. And so it's not what we say that proves our love. It's in what we do every day that makes the difference. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, it's the great chapter on love, and it shows us very practically what love is. But listen to verse 4. It just simply says, love is patient. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love is kind. Do you know the Greek word for kindness comes from the word useful? And so a kind person, you could say, is a useful person. They're looking for ways, they're looking for opportunities to be useful and to help the people around about them. That's what love is. Now, loving other people also means that we focus on others, not on self. Others is the opposite of self. And so if you want to go and have a look at unhappy people, you just look for people who are selfish and focused on themselves. Oh, you know what? This is my chair. This is my parking. And they get so worked up. But what's the problem? They're focusing on self. You know, I don't like this. I don't like that kind of restaurant. And, you know, I enjoy. And so what happens? Focus is just on self all the time. And you find somebody like that, guaranteed you're going to find an unhappy person. I think one of the best ways to break out of that selfishness is just to come to God first thing in the morning and to say, God, what can I do for you? Because think about it, a selfish person comes and says, Lord, you know, I need this today, and I pray that you undertake for that, and God, please bless me, and God, please this, and God. And so we come with our shopping list before God, instead of coming and saying, God, what can I do for you? Is there somebody in my home that I can help or bless or serve? Is there somebody in my home that needs just a little bit of encouragement? You see what's happening? Instead of focusing on ourselves and that selfishness, we start focusing on other people. And so it's one of the best ways to break the power of selfishness. And when we talk about not being selfish, I'm not talking about not taking care of yourself and not valuing yourself. But you see, some people only focus on themselves and take care of themselves and value themselves. And so if we're going to have love in our homes and in our families, we've got to start focusing on others. So we walk into the home, and instead of walking in and, man, I need this and I just need to go and sit down, and we walk into the home and we just scan quickly. What is happening? How do the other people feel? Can I do something for you? What do you need? You see the difference? Immediately, instead of focusing on self, we're focusing on other people, and that's love. Now, loving our family also means that we make allowances for people to be different. Because we're all different. And maybe you're thinking, Leonard, you have no idea how different the people in my home are. We're different. You know, I think of this father, true story. He had 2 daughters, and he was very successful. And he just wanted his daughters to be successful as well. And so the one daughter had a very similar personality to his, very organized, very disciplined, liked routine and structure, and worked hard and that sort of thing. And so she did well at school. The other daughter was very different to that. And so she was far more relaxed and easygoing and didn't like much routine and much structure in her life. And so this caused a lot of tension between the father and the second daughter. And he's constantly trying to change her and to fix her and to make her more like the other daughter. So when they left school, the one daughter wanted to become a doctor. And the other daughter wanted to become an artist. Well, I'm telling you, this just drove the father crazy. He couldn't understand that, but eventually that's what they did. And the doctor was pretty successful, did well, but so was the artist. She did well, and people started really enjoying her art and even ordering from overseas, and it was amazing. But very tragically, the second daughter, the artist, was killed in a car accident. And so in the months following that accident, her artwork started exchanging hands for crazy amounts of money. And the father couldn't believe it. And that's where he suddenly realized that God had given them very different gifts. And yeah, he's trying to fix her, trying to sort her out, trying to force a square peg into a round hole. But that wasn't who God had made her to be. God had made her different. Listen to what the Bible says here in Ephesians chapter 4. It says, be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. You see, it's rooted in love. If we love one another, we're going to be patient with one another. And we're going to make allowances for one another, especially to be different. And just because you've got it all together in one area, think about it, doesn't mean that you have it all together in the other areas as well. And we tend to forget when we look at our family that they have strengths where we have weaknesses. And they're good at things that we're not. They excel in areas where we struggle. They enjoy things that we don't. God has made us different on purpose. And if we try and change somebody all the time and try and fix them, we're not only frustrating ourselves, but we're frustrating them as well. And chances are one of your children are just like you, perfect in every way. And the other child's probably like your spouse. Perfect in a very different way. Lord, what did you do here? And too often, we want to try and fix that child or that other person who's different to us. Listen, they don't need fixing. They need to be loved. They need to be loved. And I'm not saying that they can't change and they can't improve and grow in areas. We can all grow in areas. But the problem is the focus shouldn't be on changing people and fixing people. The focus in our homes should be on loving one another. And so that's the first point, develop a loving family. And here's the second point, spending time together, spending time. Do you know that research shows that the average family spends a couple of minutes a day together? Minutes, not hours, not an hour plus. Minutes. If we had to add up the time that we spend together, we spend just minutes together. And it's not referring to, by the way, not referring to the amount of quality time that we spend. It's referring to any form of time that we spend. We spend minutes together. And so you'll find in a world of pervasive screen time and social media, many of us have actually become less social. Even though we have all of those things, we have all of that, the social media, we've become less social. And our family time is actually paying for it. And so the other day, it was quite funny. The band have a lounge back here, and between services, they'll be sitting there. And I was walking in there, and I pointed out to Brendan, I said, look at this. Every single one of them was sitting with their phones in front of them. They're sitting right next to each other, every one of them with a phone in the hand. And it's not a reflection on the band, it's a reflection on our society, on the times that we're in. And so often we do exactly that in our homes. We've substituted social time for screen time. And if we think about it, our family is the most important, most valuable asset that we have. And so often we only realize it when they're gone, when they've moved overseas or whatever it is. Then suddenly we realize we should have spent more time. And I'm here to encourage you today, wherever you are, spend time with the family members that you have. Now, how do we do that? Well, let me just say to you, one of the easiest ways to spend time is around the dinner table with the TV off and devices put down, all right? Not on the couch, not in front of the TV, but around the dinner table. You know what happens? It just creates such a natural environment for us to be able to spend time and to catch up and to share and to build stronger relations and connections. You know, you don't have to go and sit in the lounge and say, okay, talk to me about your day. How's your day? Around the dinner table, breaking bread, just eating together. Hopefully some bright flakes thrown in as well, eh? But just sitting there around the dinner table, man, it's just a natural environment where you and I can sit and spend time together. And I know eating together every single night may not work for you depending on where you are in your stage of life. We find ourselves in can I say a little bit of a difficult stage at the moment, because Liesl and I will be out 2 or 3 nights a week. Our children are young adults, and so they have their own transport and their own appointments and stuff, and so they'll be out a few times a week. They've got stuff on, and so we have found we sometimes have weeks where we never have dinner together. It just doesn't work out. Liesl and I will have dinner together, but the rest of them, we're not around. And so what we've done is whenever we're together, we try and make a point of having dinner together. And so we've had a couple of times where we sit down to have dinner. They are at home, and then we'll call for dinner. Liesl will call, and then they'll say, oh, no, we're not hungry. Hey, you better get here quickly. It's not about being hungry. It's about spending time. And so because it's a value. But when you click, here's an opportunity to spend time. It just helps. And so family time, let me just say, family time shouldn't be a chore. It should be fun. All right? Try and make it fun. Life is too serious. Life is too pressured. And so let's have fun together. Even if it's just husband and wife, make sure that you have fun together. So let me give you a couple of ideas, especially for the younger parents. When our children were small, we would often have a picnic in the garden. We wouldn't have to go out. We didn't even have to spend money. Right in the garden, we would have a picnic, and our kids absolutely loved it. I mean, they still remember it all today. During winter time, over a weekend, I would drag the double bed mattress from the bedroom, drag it down the passage, and drop it there in the lounge in front of the fireplace, and make them beds there, and we would sleep there over the weekend, Friday night, Saturday night. We would spend time there. And they, again, something simple, didn't cost us a cent, but they absolutely loved that. Here's something else that we didn't do. You may want to do it. Have a board games evening. All right. Why do you think we didn't do it? Because Liesel and I hate board games. All right. But you may love it. Knock yourself out. Go and do it. But here's something that we did do. We'd have a movies evening where we would just watch a movie together. And even though it's more passive time, and you got some snacks and popcorn and so on, it's more passive. But let me tell you, we're still having fun together. We're still doing it together as a family. What about sharing a hobby or a sport together? My son and myself used to cycle together a lot. Liesl and I still cycle together every morning. Stephen and I ride Harleys together. And so it's just something that we do together. You see, the more we can do together, the more we have in common, the closer it brings us together. And so all I'm saying is look for things that you can do together as a family or with somebody in your family. Look for things that you can do, but make sure that it's fun, that you enjoy spending that time together. Now, if you want to make improvements to your home, it's going to cost you some money. All right, and for those of you who own a home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Man, we keep on putting money into the home, isn't it? Sometimes it's just maintenance, but it's going to cost you money. Now, if you want to make improvements to your family, it's going to cost you time. It doesn't have to cost you money. You don't have to necessarily go out all the time, but it's going to cost you time. You cannot build a stronger, healthier, happier family or marriage unless you spend some time together. Do you know they did a survey on a group of people, and they asked them, if you could choose somebody, anybody in the world, to spend a half an hour with, who would it be? Do you know that 80% of the people, listen to this, said my father. My father. You see, I think as fathers, and I'm guilty here, we focus so much on what we do and on our job and on providing for the family. And very often we miss out on enjoying the family. And very often the family, they don't want this and that, and they want you. They want me. And so there's a need in our families to spend time together. So don't wait. As I said just now, don't wait until they're gone, until it's over, until maybe they've passed on and gone to be with the Lord. Do it now. Make time. Make time for that. You know what I found in family life? You're either going to drift apart or you're going to draw closer together. The one will take no effort at all. It will happen naturally, the drifting apart. And you look at a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, you're like, wow, we've really drifted apart. We have nothing in common. We've hardly ever touched base. And so the other one, drawing closer together, it's going to take a little bit of effort, making time, spending time together. But when you do that, when you become intentional, you're going to find that you're going to draw closer together. All right. So let's move on to the next one. Number one was developing a loving family, spending time together. Here's number 3, showing respect. Those are the 3 major building blocks. Love, time, and respect. Love, time, and respect. I think if we can get those basics right, you'll find a lot of the other things are going to fall into place. But always show respect. If you're taking notes, write the word always. 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 You know, there's a saying, you don't need a parachute to skydive. You just need it if you want to do it twice. You don't need respect in a family. You just need it if you want a great family. And so you can look at two families and you can see a family that's operating well and a family who's really not operating well. And I can tell you now, one of the major differences will be respect. Respect makes a huge, huge difference. And I think it's important that we model this for our children, because in our homes, our home life is a training ground for our children for one day. And so if they can learn to treat one another, because you see, it's not only the children respecting the parents, it's the parents respecting one another, the parents respecting children, and children respecting one another and speaking to one another in a respectful way. If our children can pick that up at home while growing up, they'll be able to apply that one day when grown up. And so they'll apply that in their own home, their own marriage, because they've learned we treat one another with respect always. And so they'll treat their spouse with respect. They're going to treat their boss and their colleagues and other people with respect. And guess what happens? The moment we do that, it puts our relationship on a completely different level. You know, I grew up in a home where showing respect was a non-negotiable. So if we were slightly disrespectful to our siblings, we would immediately be corrected. Say, hey, you don't speak to her like that. You don't speak to him like that. And to our parents. So it was a non-negotiable. We grew up in a home where there was absolute respect. I saw my parents, speak respectfully. They would disagree, I'm telling you. Strong personalities, but do it respectfully. And so we learned that. We saw that modeled. And so this one day specifically, I've never forgotten this. I was slightly disrespectful to my mom, all right? And so from my perspective, slightly. From my dad's perspective, he was on the phone, one of those old, what's his name phones, cord phones, so he was on the phone, and I wasn't aware that he was hearing everything that was happening on this side. And so I'm telling you, when he put that phone down, he walked over to me, he grabbed me by the chest, he lifted me right off my feet, pegged me to the wall. He said to me, you ever speak to your mom like that again, I will knock your teeth out. I was in shock. I'm dangling here in the air. I weighed a little bit less than I do now, by the way. And so, I'm dangling in the air. I couldn't even respond to him. He says, do you understand me? Yes, sir. I'm telling you, I'm still in shock. I'm still seeing a therapist today. No, I'm joking. Let me tell you, I needed that. I needed that. And I thank God for that lesson that day, because it had obviously been coming a while. He wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been coming. I don't know. I can't remember the detail. But it had obviously been coming a while. And he said, today enough is enough. And he got my attention. And it's helped to really to solidify that thing in my life, that we treat people with respect always. And so that means that we're respectful even when we disagree, even when we're upset. And so we've taught our children, you can disagree with us, you can have your own opinion, and you can even voice it, no problem. I don't mind you voicing it. It's how you do it. That's very important. And so we've had in the past, we've had times where they come and they voice their opinion, they get all worked up, and we've had to stop them and say, whoa, slow down. Now, let's try that again. So in other words, let's do it respectfully. So you may have to do that in your home. Just help that person. They worked up at that stage. They don't even realize the emotions are going. Don't allow that to continue. Stop it. Say, let's try that again. You may even have to do it in the workplace if you have people working for you. and they carry on like that, stop them. Say, breathe deeply. Let's try that again. We always treat people with respect. When you start applying this in your life, in your family firstly, you will see the difference in your families. Now, let me end off with one last thought quickly, and then I'm done. And hopefully what I want to share with you now, for some people, is going to be freeing. Families are different. Every family is different. And so you may look at the Joneses, and they doing this, and they doing that, and their children, and they go here, and they go to those places, and you look at that, and you feel inferior, or you think, am I doing a good enough job? And I'm not doing this, and we can't afford that. And listen, let me just say to you, we can learn from other people. And sometimes we look at what they do and we think, why didn't I think of that? That's a brilliant idea. But don't feel pressure. Please hear me. Don't feel pressure to do what everybody else is doing. You've got to do what works for you in your home, because your personality is different to them. And your interests are different. They love board games, you don't. And maybe their budget is different to yours. They can afford stuff. Maybe you can't, and that's okay. And so don't keep comparing yourself to the Joneses and think, I've also got to, and we need to, and we're not good enough. No. Your home is going to have a unique character and unique flavor, and maybe even some unique board games as well. All right, knock yourself out. But don't try and be like somebody else. Be who you're comfortable with in your home. And remember this, it's not about trying to build a perfect family. It's about building a loving family. And when you do that, and you make an effort to spend time, and you show respect, you always show respect. And sometimes we blow it and we go back and we say, I am sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, all right? Sometimes we've got to do that. But you apply these basic building blocks in your families, and you'll see the difference. All right, come, let's stand. I want to pray for us. Father God, thank you for the people in our lives. For those of us who've still got children at home, thank you for that, Lord. Help us to enjoy one another, to have fun together, and to treat one another with respect always. For those of us who don't have children and so on in the home, and maybe they've moved out, and maybe they're even abroad, Lord, help us to enjoy and to value the family we still have around, and to make the most of that, and to be intentional in spending time together. And then we ask, Lord, that you help us to be a blessing. Help us to take our eyes off of ourselves and to put it on others. So we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Bless you.